Little one, it's a simple calculus. This universe is finite, its resources finite. If life is left unchecked, life will cease to exist. It needs correction.
You don't know that!
I kid you not, that's the whole intellectual backing of the Avengers' perfect villain, Thanos. That's the whole backing of his cause of wiping half the life in the whole universe. For a let reason alone decide sort of guy, there's not much of it. I find Thanos to be an overrated villain. It comes down to a single fact. A villain is as good as his cause. To truly understand why not a single other quality could save the character of Thanos, we need to understand what sort of villain he is. Thanos, theoretically, belongs to my favorite type of villain. It's the sort of villain that plays with your sanity, your sense of right and wrong. His weapon is intellect, and he uses it to twist your understanding of the world. The Smith, John Milton, and Lucifer, to name just a few examples, all belong to this type. Luciferian villains place intellect above all. They act on what they conclude through intellect alone. It might seem as if Thanos wouldn't belong to this type since he sucks at convincing anyone of his cause, but just look at his motivation. Unlike many villains, he isn't motivated by revenge, greed, hate, or desperation. There's a certain element in him that likes power, though it isn't his primary motivation since he himself, without any external incentive, destroyed Infinity Stones after he achieved his main goal. What makes Thanos twisted is his intellect. What makes him want to twist the lives of other people is intellect. It's intellect that drives this villain, and that's why he's a Luciferian villain. A hallmark of a great Luciferian villain is his ability to wreak havoc in the belief system of the protagonist. The main battle is intellectual. Smith from The Matrix is a great example. Every time Smith meets anyone from the Team Neo, he makes his case for the meaninglessness of existence. He challenges the Team Neo intellectually. Most of the time he gets pushback, but sometimes he gets a conversion. He has a good case to make, and he makes it. The more he dances with Neo, the better both of their cases become. It's a dynamic that we like to see. It's a good part of the reason why Matrix is a great movie. That's not what we see in Avengers. At the very start of the movie, we get a battle scene, where Thanos defeats Hulky and offs Loki. Things to make us dislike the guy, but nothing intellectual. Then in nowhere, one more battle scene for the Redstone. No mention of his cause. 65 minutes in, we get to see Thanos for the third time, and we get the first talk about the snap.
This universe is finite, its resources finite. If life is left unchecked, life will cease to exist. It needs correction.
You don't know that!
That's about it. Reminds me of the sex scene between the Joker and Lady Gaga. Then Thanos is looking for the Soul Stone. He kills the little one and gets the stone. Nothing about his cause. The first appearance of Thanos occurred on Titan, where he was after the Time Stone. Finally, we get the second conversation about his cause.
And when we faced extinction, I offered a solution.
Genocide.
But random, dispassionate, fair to rich and poor alike. They called me a madman. And what I predicted came to pass.
Doctor Strange challenged his method, but not his cause. Close, but no cigar. There's one more meeting between the Team Avengers and Thanos, but it's just a battle scene. In summary, Thanos makes his case about his cause twice. Not a single protagonist is challenged by his arguments, and not a single protagonist brings forth an argument against the cause of Thanos. It's a disappointing development of the central idea, to say the least. In the movie, it's sort of assumed that Thanos is right, or at least he has a good point. Is the movie right? Am I missing it? Perhaps his position is so strong that it's beyond any scrutiny. I know I should build some intrigue, but his position is so weak that a child could destroy it. His whole spiel is about life consuming all resources, which leads to everyone mysteriously dying. Well, let's start with the fact that life doesn't consume resources. We breathe in, we breathe out. We drink, we piss. We eat, we shit, we live, we die. Whatever we take in, we inevitably return back. It gets even better. What one life form needs to breathe, another breathes out. Plants breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. I could list symbiotic relationships between living organisms until everyone falls asleep, but that would distract us from the point. Nothing ever is used. So what difference does it make that the resources in the universe are finite? If Thanos was a well-written villain, then one of the protagonists would have pointed it out. Then Thanos would have the opportunity to come up with a better formulated problem. He could say, "Little one, I admire your wisdom, but you missed the point. Life can breed to such numbers that the temporary usage of resources are on the limit of existing resources. Everything is in use, and the existing life can't breathe out, piss out, shit out, and die soon enough to enable prosperous existence for the ones that live. The only way to save life is to cleanse half the population, at random, so that the remaining ones could have a life worth living. I'm the only one who's capable of doing the right thing." Then his argument could be that life doesn't reach an equilibrium with the environment and breathes until it kicks off. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt and argue against his strongest position. To help his case, Thanos has the example of his own home planet, Titan, dying out as a result of overpopulation. Though Thanos is sparse on details, it's hard for me to see the causality from overpopulation to extinction of all species on the planet. How does that happen? Anyways, let's give the man the benefit of the doubt and let's assume that he's right. Then what he has presented is a single example, a single planet out of millions of inhabited Marvel Universe planets. From a single instance, he draws a general rule. He hasn't really said who or rather what he's going to snap out of existence. I mean, will he wipe out half the dogs, cats, ants, bacteria, viruses? Are trees safe? The Vision guy is essentially a computer. Is he alive? Is he on the list as well? What's his definition of life? If your endeavor is to wipe out half of anything, then details matter. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but not a single protagonist pushed back. Especially here, you could have pointed out his insanity and made a joke. Well, he said half of life has to go. Dogs are clearly alive. If they gotta go, then they gotta go. On this beautiful planet alone, there has been 4.5 times 10 to the power of 27 species. 99.9% of those species are extinct now, which means that 99.9% of life with absolute certainty is not planet-destroying kind. If you want to look at living examples, then look at any invasive species in an environment with favorable circumstances and no predators. In the worldview of Thanos, these species should breed until all of the resources are exhausted and then the whole thing should die. What happens instead is that the dominant species breed until they reach an equilibrium with the environment without any correction from anyone. Sure, the ecosystem as a whole might experience change and some species might even go extinct, but it's not as if the whole thing perishes. Any one of the protagonists could now make a good case that dogs should be spared. But what about us? Are we going to fornicate until we somehow blow up our planet? Infinity Wars came out 50 years too late. Demographics has been studied for a while now, and it's rather obvious that people are heavily influenced by the environment in their decision of making children. If children are essentially free, if all you have to do is feed it every once in a while, then people have a lot of children. If, on the other hand, you have to invest in your offspring, let's be honest here, for more than 2 decades, huge sums of money, and afterwards they just leave, then there will be very few children born into this world. That's reflected in statistics. The birth rates in developed countries have decreased so much so that people are actually dying out. All it takes for humans to stop having children is a sign that there's not enough resources in their possession to support new life. there's more nuance to this topic, but I'm not here to smash illusions about the doom that will come from uncontrolled population growth. I'm here for Thanos. The whole reason Thanos is at the center of the stage is his goal of wiping the Have. And yet, this cause is poorly based, poorly formulated, barely presented, and hardly ever challenged. If your villain is based on intellectual grounds, then the battlefield should be intellectual. If you were to ask me what was the movie about, I would answer that it was about a dude with dementia deciding to wipe half the life and then a series of battle scenes between Thanos and Marvel heroes. Thanos is solving a problem of his own imagination, and not a single protagonist tries to challenge his cause intellectually. It's the cause that drives villains. It consumes them. It's what makes them. So in conclusion, Thanos isn't a great villain. He's just overrated.